What if I told you that everything you think you know about discipline is a lie? That your brain isn't just resisting discipline, it's actively sabotaging it. We chase fleeting pleasures, trapped in a loop of instant gratification, wondering why lasting change feels impossible. But there's a reason for this struggle, a deeper mechanism at play that, once understood, can unlock an almost terrifying control over your own motivation. The truth isn't just about doing a detox. It's about confronting the very architecture of your desires. And if you clicked on this video, deep down, you already sensed this wasn't a random curiosity. It was a warning you've been avoiding. Because here is the unsettling anchor. Your brain can lose 47 minutes inside TikTok or YouTube Reels. And when you come back to reality, you don't even remember what you consumed. That is sabotage. That is your dopamine controlling you like a puppet. And you mistake that loss of control as laziness or lack of discipline. But what if I told you this wasn't a moral failure at all? It was your brain choosing the fastest path to biochemical reward, even if that path destroys your future. Most people force discipline like a brutal war against themselves, but they never question why the war exists in the first place. And this is where most people get it tragically wrong. The enemy was never lack of effort. The enemy was the default wiring of your own mind. If we don't expose that architecture, you can never escape it. So before anything else, we must go deeper into the evolution that built this trap. Your brain was never built for the long game. And this is the part nobody wants to accept, because it destroys the illusion that discipline is supposed to feel natural or easy. Your brain evolved to choose whatever gave the fastest reward right now. Because thousands of years ago, survival depended on immediacy. Eat when you can, rest when you can, avoid effort unless it was necessary for survival. That wiring never updated for the modern world. So when you choose to study instead of scroll, your brain literally interprets that as a threat to energy preservation. That's why resistance feels physical. It's not in your head, it's in your neurons. Modern apps are designed by behavioral scientists who know this primitive code better than you do, and they weaponize it against you. That's why when Netflix auto-starts the next episode in 3 quiet seconds, your brain doesn't debate it. It melts into compliance because the path of least resistance feels safer than choosing the harder, future-oriented path. Discipline is registered as punishment because your brain still associates survival with comfort, not evolution. And this is the trap. You are trying to become your future self using a brain that only rewards you for protecting your present impulses. But what if the problem was never that discipline was hard, but that you were playing against millions of years of evolutionary instinct without knowing it? This is why the struggle feels deeply personal, because the threat is silent, invisible, and ancient. But once you see this flaw for what it truly is, the power dynamic starts to flip. And now you're not fighting your brain. You're preparing to rewrite it. Dopamine isn't just a pleasure chemical. It's the currency your brain uses to decide what matters and what doesn't. And because your brain evolved to prioritize fast reward over future fulfillment, dopamine has become the ultimate puppeteer. Every notification ping, every seductive reel, every tiny instant click hit teaches your brain to value short-term gratification like a survival priority. That's why just replying to one message turns into 22 minutes of unplanned scrolling. And by the time you look up, you don't even remember what goal you abandoned to do it. The modern world didn't overpower your discipline. It simply trained your reward system to crave the shallow path because it pays faster. And the reason procrastination feels almost involuntary isn't because you lack ambition. It's because your brain believes instant stimulation is a better survival trade. Most people try to build their future while feeding their brain the dopamine loops that make the future feel irrelevant. And this is where the horror becomes real. The mind you're trying to use to build your ideal life is wired to destroy the discipline required to manifest it. Because dopamine chooses what feels meaningful long before you do. Most people don't get defeated by the world. They get defeated by their own patterns. Self-sabotage is not random. It is predictable. It is strategic. Your brain chooses the illusion of safety over the reality of growth. Avoiding discomfort feels safer than evolving. Comfort protects you from the risk of identity collapse, because as long as you don't try, you never have to find out if you're not enough. Self-sabotage protects the fantasy of who you still believe you could become someday. That's why the pain of failing feels smaller than the pain of finding out who you really are. The shift doesn't start by removing dopamine hits. It starts when you reassign what dopamine rewards. Because if you don't, your brain will permanently stay loyal to the cheapest dopamine source it has ever tasted. And cheap dopamine doesn't just distract you, it slowly enslaves you. You don't win discipline by fighting impulses. You win by assertive redirecting them. Discipline becomes possible the moment your brain links reward to the process, slow, deliberate, instead of relief, escape, or instant comfort. Because your brain has no moral compass, no ethics, no vision. It only asks one question: what gave me a fast reward last time? This means if you don't consciously reinstall new reward pathways, your default future is predictable. Procrastination, addiction to easy dopamine, long-term self-destruction disguised as just a break. So you must rig the rules first. Make progress feel rewarding instantly. Example: one completed deep work block equals one tiny but guaranteed dopamine hit. Immediate. Cashable now, not 6 months later. This is how people who look naturally disciplined actually operate. They didn't get lucky. They, slow, deliberate, engineered their brain to crave the hard path, because that path became the new reward system. And if you don't do this, your brain will choose the weaker path forever. So now, here is where most people finally see the trap clearly. You can't wait for discipline to feel good. You have to manufacture the feeling first. This is where the rewiring gets real, because you are now going to control the dopamine faucet, deliberately. Your brain needs 3 things to flip loyalty. 1, immediacy. 2, certainty. 3, completion. That's it. If a habit gives immediate, guaranteed, small completion hits, your brain will choose that habit again, automatically. This is why the first 5 minutes are everything. If you make the start rewarding, the rest of the task becomes frictionless. For example, you tell yourself you'll just check email for 3 minutes, and 48 minutes later you are still there, because the small completion hits from opening, archiving, replying stack instantly. That exact same mechanism can be hijacked for hard work. This is how. Deep work becomes modularized. Break your focus work into 10-minute blocks. After each block, cash in a tiny instant reward. Stand up. Mark progress on a visual tracker. 30-second music dopamine hit. Sip your favorite drink. Mini walk. Anything that is harmless but instantly rewarding. You are training your brain like a programmable machine, because when completion becomes the drug, hard work becomes your high. This is where the addiction flips. Not by pain, not by pressure, not by motivation, by engineering tiny victories, fast and consistent, until they become the only reward system your brain trusts. Here is the final shift most people never reach. You don't become disciplined by forcing yourself to act differently. You become disciplined by teaching your brain you are a different kind of person. Identity is the final dopamine anchor. Because the brain doesn't protect behavior, it protects identity. When your identity becomes, I'm someone who finishes things. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who chooses the harder path by default. Dopamine locks onto that self-image and protects it like survival. This is why some people look effortlessly disciplined. Their brain isn't fighting anymore. The war ended a long time ago. Discipline is not a choice they make each morning. It's simply the person they believe they are. So this final step is not performance. It's reclamation. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remove everything that convinced you that you weren't capable in the first place. From here on, every small, disciplined action is not a task. It is for the identity you are choosing to step into. And identity, once locked, cannot be negotiated with, ever again. And this is where it settles into silence, because discipline was never a battle you were meant to fight with force. It was always a system you were meant to reprogram. You now see the architecture behind your impulses. You now understand why the weaker path always felt easier, and why the harder path always felt impossible. And now that you've seen the code, you can't unsee it. Most people will walk away from this exact insight and do nothing, and their future will stay identical to their past. But you didn't click this because you were just curious. You clicked because some part of you already sensed you were done living inside the cheap reward loop. From this moment forward, discipline isn't something you must try to do. It is something you reinforce with every tiny action that aligns with who you already decided to be. Because identity, once chosen, becomes the new baseline reality. And the dark secret of discipline is simple. The brain loves what you repeatedly reward. So the question isn't, can you become disciplined? You already crossed that threshold. The only remaining question is quietly simple. What will you reward next?